Hi, my name is Demetria. I'm an author, podcast coach, and I'm super happy to be your host. I created this podcast to encourage women entrepreneurs and mompreneurs of faith on your business journey. So join me and all of my beautiful guests as we help you to discover how to gain kingdom business clarity and turn your profitable passion into a plan of action. You're listening to the Her Business Elevated podcast, episode number 40. Well, hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today. Last week, we had a wonderful time talking with Coach Risa Hasbrook, and she was phenomenal. If you didn't get a chance to hear her encouragement, her support, and her help with supporting us in our mindset shift in business, then you'll want to go back and listen to episode 39 and hear that interview with me and Risa. We had a great time, and our discussion was so encouraging to me, and I hope to you as well. Today, we're going to be talking about the Mompreneur Balance Framework. This is a framework that I created for specifically my other website and podcast that I did run up until recently. I am now on hiatus with the Mompreneurs and Heels podcast, and I've been slowly redirecting everyone who's been listening to that podcast to come check out this one, because a lot of the content that I share on this podcast is overlapping with Mompreneurs and Heels, and it's kind of similar. So I wanted to direct my listeners there over to the Her Business Elevated, but I still have so many resources at Mompreneurs and Heels that I thought would be very helpful to bring to this show as well. So one of them is my framework, where I've been helping mompreneurs over the past, I don't know how many years, but I will say specifically started focusing on the mompreneur in 2016 when I wrote Mompreneurs and Heels, A Guide to Passionate, Purposeful Blogging, which is a book you can find in Amazon. I will leave a link to that. So if you're interested in blogging, be sure to check out that book. But in 2016, when I wrote that book, I also started the podcast as well and started coaching mompreneurs and helping them to set their mindset and move forward with figuring out what their business clarity is, their purpose, their passion, and how to sort of balance that with raising a family. Because at the time I was raising my young children, homeschooling them, and balancing business as well. So that's kind of where I was in my life at that time. And it was super relevant to me. And because I was in the trenches, I wanted to help other moms who were also in the trenches. So fast forward now in 2023, my kids are older, and I keep repeating that so many times on my podcast, how my children are older. And it's just kind of a way for me to digest the fact that I myself am getting older, and we are all getting older, right? So with time, our space in life changes, and our identity is starting to shift, as our children grow up. If you are raising kids, you understand exactly what I mean by recreating and redefining your identity as an older woman as you get into your 40s and 50s and so forth. So as life changes, so do the projects we work on. And my project with Mompreneurs is kind of going in a different direction now, because I'm focusing more of my attention here at Her Business Elevated. However, this show is about the balance and the framework that I use to help moms over the years. And so I'm going to share those 3 legs of the framework with you. And I'm also going to share with you how to access the framework worksheet. And this is a printable that you can print and use it to help you figure out the different aspects of what we're going to talk about. So you'll find that in this episode's show notes, as well as on the blog post when that's ready. But for now, you can definitely find this in the show notes. So let's talk about Mompreneur balance. What is this all about? What do I mean by the balance of mompreneurs? So we've had a guest earlier in episode number 33, and our guest was Christian Garrett. She shared with us how she gets it all done, and she gave us some mompreneur tips. And so you can check that out here at the podcast as well. And this is going to give you sort of a head start and a launching pad into what we're going to talk about in today's episode. But if you want a fun conversation to listen to you about this topic, you'll definitely want to check out my fun convo with Christian Garrett, who is a mompreneur productivity coach. All right, so on to what is mompreneur balance. Now, life balance is exactly what it sounds like. It's figuring out how to balance the different aspects of our lives in order to make sense for us at the time, right? So throw in the word mompreneur and you just really have got a more specific way of looking at our life balance as a mompreneur. And some would argue that there's no such thing as life balance. And I would have to agree to a large degree that they are right. There's no such thing as coming to this homeostasis, this happy medium, this kind of like ongoing state of balance, because from day to day, our situations, circumstances, they fluctuate. And what we were not dealing with yesterday, we're probably dealing with today. So every day looks different and it never feels balanced. It never feels the same from day to day. But what I would like to do is kind of give you an overall generalized view of what we could aspire to when we're thinking of balance. So balance for you is going to look different than for me. And so whatever that looks like for you, I want you to paint that mental picture of balance. What does that mean for you as a woman in business, as a mom running a business with children at tow? How do you balance those two pieces of your life in addition to all the other plates that you're holding in the air? So how do you do all of that? So what I have provided for you in my printable is a flowchart diagram, and you'll see that once you're able to download it in the show notes. And again, the name of that is the Mompreneur Balance Framework. Okay, so you start with the mindset. And so what I've got is mindset at the very bottom, even though it's number one on the list, it's going to be at the bottom because you want to think of it as your foundation. The second thing, and from the foundation, number two is going to be your family, and that's in the middle. And number three is at the very top, and that's your business. And now I've stacked it that way for a reason. And I want you to think of it not in terms of what's more important is on the top, but what's most important is at the bottom. And it's at the bottom because it's foundation, not because it's of least importance. So the first thing is mindset. That's at the very, very bottom of our ladder. Okay, so setting your mind means getting clear on your priorities and overcoming any mental blocks. And that's the very first step in this process of becoming a balanced mompreneur, is to create a foundation of health and wellness for yourself. So you might be tempted to put your family first, which I put that at number 2. And you might be wondering why your family is not at number 1. But I want to reassure you that by putting yourself first, you're ultimately doing yourself and your family a favor. By taking care of yourself first, by clearing up your mindset, removing any mental blocks you have about your business success and about whether or not you can actually balance all the things you have in life, removing your mental blocks about getting physically healthy and taking assessment of your spiritual development. All of these things are playing a part in the whole you. You need to take care of you, right? So taking care of yourself is always going to be the first thing. We always say that we take care of ourselves first. When on an airplane, you always are told by the flight attendants that you're to take care of your own mask first before you deal with anyone else's oxygen mask. You need to be taking care of you. So by doing just those 3 things in the foundational part of your business development, you're going to see a remarkably huge difference in your outcomes. Self-development is ongoing, so you're going to always circle back around to these things and do these self-checks periodically. But once you've cleared that space in your heart and in your mind, then you can start taking better care of your family, and then you can launch a healthy business. But first, it starts with you. Take care of you. And this is ongoing. So remember, you're not going to be perfect. When you start your business, you're not going to have the perfect you show up. But the you that you want to be, that you want to grow into, will develop as you start taking those action steps. So it's one step at a time. And when you take the first step, the second step will appear for you. So you must take care of you and start making declarations over yourself about what you want to happen in your life. And so one of the things I've been doing that I shared on my newsletter with my list, and I hope you're on my mailing list because I do send out a newsletter every single week. And for those interested in growing as a businesswoman and learning about podcasting, which is a really big part of what I do right now. But one of the things I like to talk about is how I'm developing myself in the process of building my business or growing my business at this point. And one of the things that's been really helpful to me is journaling. Having someone outside of yourself to talk to is so important. So having a therapist or having a counselor or having a close friend, a close trusted individual, or in addition to your family, your significant other, someone that you talk to on a regular basis that is a trusted individual. But then it's good to have something else that you can do to pour out your heart, your feelings, your emotions, and make sense of what's going on in your head. And that is where journaling helps you to clear the space. It clears your head space. That's why we have therapists. Therapists are available and you can find a good coach to talk to. But when your coach is not there and your therapist is not on call and you don't have your next appointment until next week, what do you do in between? Well, first of all, as a woman of faith, I pray, and that's something I would highly recommend is you talk to God. But I also do something that is part of my prayer routine, which is journaling. And journaling helps me to just dump all of my thoughts, whether they make sense or not. I just dump them out. So whether I type it or I write it or I speak it, I journal, and I love my audio journaling. I do all kinds of things to help me to clear my mind. One of the only reasons why I can have the energy to show up on my podcast and to express myself in this way, being that I'm an ambivert, which means that I'm a mixture of extro and introvert, and mainly an introvert. So I have more of myself that's introverted. And so this takes a bit of energy for me to show up on podcasts or to show up on video. But the reason I'm able to do these things is because I pray a lot, and all of the anxieties and worries and fears and frustrations and confusions that I do go through, just like everybody else, I take that to God and I dump it out in my journal, and it helps me to clear things so that I'm able to progress in my business and progress in my friendships and relationships with people. So I want to give a quick plug, and she doesn't know that I'm going to do this, but I want to plug a wonderful life coach that I think you should definitely talk to if you are thinking of needing someone really soon in your life who can help to empower you and keep you accountable. And this person is someone that I've been talking to for the last couple of months, just as a friend and as a business person that I made a connection with a few years ago, but we're able to have these occasional coffee chats, and I've really been enjoying our conversations. Her name is LaTanya Moore, and she runs joyintheordinary.com. I want you to go check her out. She is a working homeschooling mom, now an entrepreneur, a life coach, and she helps you to focus on what's really important. She provides clarity and calm to help you to face what's important in your life. And I think having someone like LaTanya to talk with would be great for you. So I want to plug her, and we had an interview together about a year ago, and I'm going to direct you to that interview, but we're also going to have another conversation on this podcast in just a few weeks. So I definitely wanted to plug her because she's just awesome, and I want you to be familiar with people like LaTanya. So the interview that she and I had originally was episode number 5, and that was back in December of 2021. But there's been quite a few updates in her life since then, and we shall talk about that on an upcoming show. So stay tuned in a couple of weeks for that interview. And in order to reach LaTanya, you'll need to hop on over to joyintheordinary.com and click on the coaching tab. All right, let's move on to number 2 of the Mompreneur Balance Framework. Number 2 is to balance family. Balance your family. What does that mean, to balance your family? Is that even possible? Well, really what it means to me, at least, is keeping your family first after your mindset, which is the important key to business success as a mompreneur. That is the key. That's why it's in the middle. And as a mompreneur, you have a heart for raising your kids while you also love building your brand, right? So you don't need to give up one in order to have the other. You can do both. But the key to finding success in doing both of these things is doing them well. And doing them well is the balance you keep in order to stay grounded and keep your priorities aligned. The family and your children will always be more important to you than any business project that you create. There's simply no comparison between those two babies. So your babies, your children that you give birth to are your babies. But you know what? Sometimes we look at our business as our babies as well. It truly is like being in labor and giving birth to this grand idea that's been in our hearts for so long. So these are our two babies, right? But your actual babies, the babies that God has blessed you with to raise, will always come first above and beyond your business. So you will want to create routines and systems so that your children or your spouse, your anyone in your household, your significant others, or anyone else will be able to work with the entrepreneurial flow that you've created in your home. And additionally, you won't be prepared for this step until your step number one, or your mindset, is getting in order. So we're not perfect and we've not always arrived, to where we need to be. So don't think you have to have like all of your fears dismantled and your mindset has to be pristine before you can build your business, because you will always have mindset work that you need to do, things that you need to work on. But having that foundation, knowing that you are working on yourself continually, that is your number one. And once you know that you're doing that, the number two is to keep your family first. Always keep them first. You won't have to fear neglect of the main ingredients of the support and love of your family if you keep your family in the center. And I say this, knowing that we all have different types of families and variations and shades of what family means to us. So when I say mompreneur, that could mean, for some of you, you could be a single mama raising a teenager by yourself. And being a mompreneur to you could mean that you always show up at your kids' soccer games, that you're always there for them. You take them to school, you pick them up from school, you oversee their homework, and you just make sure that they're doing well and staying out of trouble. And you're balancing your life as a mompreneur by doing your business activities around your kids' schedule. For others of you, you have maybe younger children, and maybe you're just balancing the time that it takes to be able to get things done while your toddlers are in constant need of your attention. Or maybe you have babies that are super young and you just had a baby. And so you're thinking of how are you going to have the time to run your business while nursing and while changing diapers and feeding and all of that. So those first couple of years of your baby's life, the beginning stages of parenting an infant and toddler, how do you balance life? And so for you, balancing family could mean that you just really have to grab the moments that you can to work on your business. And keeping family first just means focusing on taking care of the immediate needs of your young children. Then there are others of you who are maybe you've got a homeschooling lifestyle. I know I talk to a lot of homeschool families at my other podcast, Christian Homeschool Moms Podcast. And there are so many families are teaching their kids at home. So they have a house full of kids and a house full of curriculum, and they are taking over the responsibilities of educating their children while at the same time finding that space in their life to run a business. And so your challenge as a homeschool family would be very different. Balancing family for some of you might mean taking care of older parents, and that is your family. Maybe your kids are old, they're out of the house, they no longer live with you. Whatever your responsibility happens to be when it comes to family, and whatever that looks like, whether it's stepchildren, whether it's visitations, whatever your situation looks like, that family is everything. And we have to, as mompreneurs, whether we're aunties or older cousins that's taking care of younger cousins, family always has to come first, because that's all we've got. And we depend on each other in life to make life work. So whatever your situation happens to be, finding that delicate balance between taking care of your family and taking care of growing your business, that's going to be a challenge, and it's going to be something that we always have to be thinking about, finding that time, right? So you got to work, but you got to take care of everything else as well. And I always say family comes first because I just have a heart for the younger kids, especially when we're raising children, how much those kids really need the heart and the attention of mama, right? And they need us. And as they're growing up in our home, they need to remember those moments that we are taking the time for them. As they're older, they don't want to be in our face so much, right? But they just need to know that we're available emotionally to talk, that whenever they say, hey, mom, they want to say something to you, right? They want to share their heart with you. They want to tell you something that happened at school. They want to talk about their day. So your availability to do that, as opposed to pushing them away or saying, hey, I'm busy. Like I'm on a podcast. I'm writing a blog post. I have some work to catch up on. I'll talk to you later. Like, we don't want to push our kids away. And so one of the practices that I always have is, if I'm busy and my daughter is at home, in order to not have to say I'm busy, there's a sign on my door. She knows that I'm in a call, that I am recording, but I will only be in there for about an hour. And if she has something very, very urgent and pressing, I'll stop what I'm doing. But if she can wait, then when I'm done recording, as long as that door is cracked open, even slightly, if it's slightly ajar, she can knock and come in and talk to me at any time. So I also have made this effort to at least, go for a walk every hour, or at least stand up every hour and stretch, go for a walk, go to the kitchen, get something to eat, go for a ride, just get out of the house so that I'm not constantly at my computer. So I still technically have my daughter, my youngest, at home with me as she's doing online school this year. So I like to invite her to come with me on one of my hikes. And she hasn't been on very many of them because she just doesn't like hiking with me. But when I do go for a walk or a hike, I invite her to come, and we can walk the dog together, and that's a time to connect with her as well. And sometimes I like to just stop what I'm doing and ask if she wants to do something fun. Just stop school for a minute, because it is online and it's kind of at her own pace. She can stop, and then if we want, we can watch a K-drama together, because now she's got me into these K-dramas, and we could have something fun like popcorn and a movie or just something. So I try to make time in my schedule, in my day, I should say, for my daughter that's at home. And the one that's at college, whenever she calls, I'm there. If she wants to text, I'm there. There's no such thing as my work comes first. Family is always first. And I do the same with my husband. So he works all day, and when he comes home, he wants to talk. So I try to make my business hours fit the needs of my family. So after 5, I don't work. I might have some light housekeeping things that I take care of, but for the most part, I don't want to look at my computer anymore. I don't want to have anything to do with working past 5 o'clock, because I want to do dinner. I want to watch movies. I want to, I have things to do. I have, places to take my daughter and places to go. So that's my time to chill with my family or with friends or whatever I'm doing. I'm very involved in my church. So sometimes I have church activities that I have to do in the evenings, but those times in the afternoons, I try to keep to myself and away from business. Number 3, the very last leg of this framework, is the building of your business. The building of your business. So once you've got your mindset, you got your family, and now let's build. And so I think that's the heart of the mompreneur, is to really create a business that they can fit around their lifestyle as a mother and their mothering and parenting. But the main deal here is you want to build a business, right? So the tip I have for you with this is staying consistent and doing the thing that you're supposed to do. So one step at a time, you're putting one foot in front of the other. So whatever you're supposed to do this week, do that. And if you don't know what to do next week, don't worry about that. Just do what you know to do today, right? If you have your goals in place, if you have your overall vision and your plan and you've got your goals, then you should know at least step 1. What is step 1? Let's work on that. And so business heart alignment is so important important for optimal growth and satisfaction. You want to have heart alignment with your business. You want to love what you do. If you're doing what you love to do, then you'll have the passion to keep going for years down the road. Now that you've overcome those mental blocks, you've checked on your mental and spiritual wellness, your family understands the new business flow of your home and your commitment to building and growing your business, now you can begin to focus on truly using your time effectively and being as productive as possible in your business with your kids at tow. And some say that this is the tricky part, but I promise you, you can do this if you really want to, with a baby on your hip or a baby in a stroller, or while you're homeschooling, or while chauffeuring your kids to after school activities, or sending them off to college, or taking care of other people's kids, or taking care of nieces and nephews and parents and whoever you're taking care of. You're taking the role as a mama. So you're a mompreneur. You can build your beautiful heart-aligned business. I believe in you. With just a few time management tools under your belt, you're going to find yourself more productive than ever. And so I want you to take out that printable that I am offering you. Check the link in the show notes. And I have a page for you. It's like page 6, I believe, and it says, think it through. Use this section to take notes. You're going to take notes on your mindset, on your family, and on your business. And I hope that this has been helpful to you. So my next steps for you after listening to this episode is to check out any of my archived episodes of the Mompreneurs and Heels podcast that you think may be helpful to you as a mompreneur. Now, this podcast is fading away, and I recently uploaded the very last episode of it, but the archives are still there and will be there indefinitely. So I would love for you to listen to them. For more mompreneur specific content, you'll find topics such as blogging, if you're really interested in blogging, like how to start your blog, how to grow your blog. You'll find self-care tips just for moms. My story of how I went from stay-at-home mom to blogger, how to dump a negative mindset. We'll talk about your business in terms of gaining trust from your tribe, how I balance being a homeschool mompreneur, branding, more stuff about blogging, lots of stuff about mom bloggers and that kind of thing. So you can find that information at mompreneursandheels.com. I'll definitely leave a link to that in the show notes. I also want you to pick up your free copy of my business clarity guide, and I'm going to leave a link to that in the show notes also. This is going to help you if you've been spinning your wheels and you want to figure out your path of your calling in life and business, and I want you to have access to that as well. That's all I have for you today. I can't wait for our next episode, which is an interview with LaTanya Moore. So I did tell you that I'd have that episode coming up shortly. That's going to be happening next week. And that's all I have for you on this episode. Thank you for listening, and you have a wonderful week and to your business success.